Hello everyone, I am Maria Wolters from 8A, and this is my TED Talk speech on light, as you already know. So, first off, I have to admit that when I took a look at the theme for this final round, I was frustrated. I knew that it had to be something to do with our emotions or happiness, but I wasn't quite sure at what angle to approach the question, at least without sounding painfully cheesy. Thankfully, I believe I have avoided that. So first off, I have a few facts about the curious nature of light I would like you all to keep in mind. My dad, a scientist, suggested that I simply give a lecture about the physical properties of light for my entire speech. This suggestion was obviously vehemently turned down, but I realized that there were some things to learn from the scientific aspect of this. First off, light is just odd. It behaves like both a particle and a wave, but it doesn't fit perfectly into either category. It's also the fastest thing in the universe known to man, yet it still has a speed limit of about 300,000 kilometers per second. Finally, it doesn't have any mass. Light is something so familiar to us, yet if you consider it more closely, there are still so many mysteries surrounding it. With some thought, I realized that our inner lives or emotions are a lot like this too. So I didn't want to leave you guys with some vague, grandiose, sweeping statements that aren't really meaningful in the grand scheme of things, so let me offer some practical, down-to-earth advice. First off, emotions can be complicated. Everyone has heard this 1,000 times, but I don't think everyone really grasps it. I struggle a bit with anxiety and being self-conscious. I'm the type to say something I find embarrassing in conversation and stay up all night 2 years after the fact, feeling absolutely humiliated about that one thing. Oftentimes, it's an entirely internal response, so I say, put it into perspective. If you think about it, would what you said or did really make as big of an impact on the other person as it did on you? Also, my embarrassment often stems from talking to someone older or that I see as more mature. And to that, I just tell myself to think about how many times I've noticed someone younger than me do something embarrassing. That count is around 0. A lot of the time, these two screening processes allow me to more realistically evaluate what happened and to calm myself down. And you can apply this in plenty of other scenarios too. If you separate the emotions from the reality of the situation and try to be more logical, things often aren't as bad as you think they are. This is not to say that emotions are invalid. Emotions are often completely illogical, but that is a fact of life. And to this I say, don't worry about it. Because everyone faces it, the people that are good to you will hopefully not judge you, because having irrational emotions isn't just your problem. It's a normal thing everybody does. And it can get even more confusing. Sometimes you end up just feeling frustrated, angry, or sad, like this little stock image for no particular reason. Maybe it's build-up from holding things in, maybe you genuinely have no clue. In these situations, you may feel bad for having normal emotions. So I'd like to offer some potential solutions. And as much as you've probably heard this a million times and are probably sick of it, it genuinely helps to have someone to talk to. If you don't feel comfortable, vent into a journal or even type it into a Word document. Or even just talk to yourself. I do that all the time. But my favorite way to work through emotions alone is by spending some time listening to music. Music really has a cathartic nature, with some songs or albums being especially good for certain emotions. These are my personal favorites for helping on the slide. Next, another issue I'm sure many of us face is procrastination, or not doing things because you feel like your social battery has been drained. I face this constantly as I'm a huge leave things till the last minute type of person, and I think it's because of the guilt for not doing things. This is why it's important to learn to relax without guilt. Procrastination is not always because you don't care, and that's a huge misconception. Often it actually stems from caring too much about a task and wanting to do it perfectly. This is you putting pressure on yourself and making you want to put it off so as to avoid disappointment or a large workload. Sometimes I even feel bad about doing something that is productive, like practicing guitar or doing creative writing, because it's not studying and it actually makes me happy. I think that's the worst of it, actually. Feeling bad about feeling happy. This just starts an infinite cycle of having work, but doing something that makes you happy to avoid doing work, then feeling bad about it to the point where you want to do something that makes you happy, and then having more work because you ended up procrastinating. When you let yourself relax without feeling bad about it, you end up recharging while also getting into a better headspace to actually get things done. And finally, this may seem a bit obvious, but here are some positives for being in the light, or in a more positive state of mind. Firstly, as spoken about in my previous point, it helps with productivity. Research from Oxford University shows that happy workers are actually on average 13% more productive. Another point I think is important is the placebo effect. When sick patients are given useless sugar pills under the guise of it being medicine, they tend to get better. This shows that security and positive thinking are really hugely important. Similarly, on the other hand, unhappiness or depression can also influence your physical state. It can cause insomnia, which further weakens your immune system, which needs you to sleep in order to produce certain infection-fighting substances. Further, your brain and gastrointestinal system are linked, meaning that stress and unhappiness can cause an upset stomach, stomach ulcers, etc. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, to tie it all together, if you remember those 3 original light facts, you'll notice that they all tie back to one of my main points. Light behaves like both a particle and a wave. Our emotions and our light are complicated. They are far from black and white. They can mix and mingle and intertwine in the most confusing of ways, and we have to remember that that's just part of the package of being human. Light has a speed limit, and so do you. You don't have to feel like a burden or a nuisance for having to stop or slow down. Oftentimes, pushing yourself will end up giving you worse results than just letting yourself take a break. Light doesn't have mass. A tiny speck of dust on your coffee table has more tangible mass than all the light in the universe. Yeah, I think we'd all agree that light carries much more metaphorical weight than that fluff under your couch. Light is what allows photosynthesis. It's what helps us see. It's what allows the life around us to exist. A lot of the time, your mental state and your light matters infinitely more than your material possessions or sometimes even your physical state. And it's crucial that we remember this. Thank you.